Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this webinar. My name is Sean Gorez. I'm a technical sales engineer with OpenVPN, and we're going to start in about a minute or so. Before we do, I need to mention a couple of things here. You all have access to a Q&A box, so you can type your questions at any time during the webinar, and we have a couple of my colleagues ready to answer those questions. Also, at the end of the webinar, we will have a Q&A session, so we can address any questions you may have at that time as well. Also, we have a mixture of people who are familiar with the product, the OpenVPN Cloud, and we have some people who are not familiar with OpenVPN Cloud. So I'm going to spend about 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning and do a very quick, brief introduction to OpenVPN Cloud. And then we start talking about what is our focus today, which is ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access. And we're going to get into the admin portal, configure some of the features, and we're going to look at how to create a better secure network with OpenVPN Cloud. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and start. What is OpenVPN Cloud? Um, Easiest way to say it's a cloud delivered service that integrates virtual networking with essential security capabilities. You will see some of these security capabilities in the next section when we get to the admin portal and we start configuring some of the features. You can connect your resources such as private networks, users, IoT devices, applications, and so on without a complex, hard to scale hardware. With OpenVPN Cloud, you can have zero trust access to all applications and the internet as well as site to site networking while enforcing identity based access control, preventing malicious network activity, and providing protection by blocking malicious website access. Again, these are some of the features that you will see when we get into the configuration page. We make our service accessible from over 30 worldwide points of presence or regions, all of which are connected to our high-speed core network using full mesh topology. To ensure maximum performance and to alleviate the operational and staffing costs that come with operating multiple security appliances, we vertically integrated critical network security functions such as firewall, identity-based access control, content filtering, intrusion detection, and prevention IDS and IPS into our multi-tenant points of presence. This multi-tenant service means that there is no waiting around for server orchestration. As soon as you sign up and choose a network cloud ID, you get access to a virtual network. This network is dedicated for your use and called a wide area private cloud or WPC. You will see or you will hear me mentioning WPC a lot during this webinar. In another word, wide area private cloud or WPC is a secure private overlay network created for you and is ready for use immediately. You'll be connecting the networks and resources that host your applications to the WPC, and then you configure everything else through the admin portal, as you're going to see in a minute. So during the sign up, you have to choose a cloud ID, which then be the unique identifier for your WPC and eventually becomes a subdomain of openvpn.com. This is the address that you're going to use to access your administration portal and import the connection profile for clients. So some of the features of OpenVPN Cloud, again, some of them, not all, are flexible internet routing, multiple isolated overlay networks or WPCs, application-based domain routing, cyber shield, IoT securities, restricted internet access, point-and-click configuration, and many, many others. So that was a very quick introduction to OpenVPN Cloud. Again, as I said, I was just gonna do a touch on that and then get into our focus. What is our focus today, which is zero trust. So IT teams have traditionally relied on private or virtual private networks or VPNs to provide secure remote access to distributed workforces. But with increased demands from remote users and new security architecture demands of software as a service and web-based apps, as well as advanced cybersecurity threats in the cloud, legacy hardware-based VPNs without proper access controls and the traditional network security tools simply can't keep up. So, to help increase user productivity and security in remote work environments, many organizations and businesses are turning to more modern cloud native security solutions such as OpenVPN Cloud that can provide zero trust network access or ZTNA. Hence the title of this webinar, ZTNA is the new VPN. Zero Trust Network Access or ZTNA creates secure boundaries around resources. Typically, a legacy VPN will push the entire route of the private network to every client. OpenVPN Cloud automatically microsegments the network based on the configured IP services and their authorized users. So when a user accounts connect, then sends routes to just the authorized microsegments and nothing else. So another and maybe the best way to cloak your private services is to assign them to domain name in either your private DNS servers or using OpenVPN Cloud DNS records. A connected user cannot discover your private network's IP address range. OpenVPN Cloud provides IP addresses from a different subnet to reach those private applications. What cannot be discovered cannot be attacked, obviously. And you're going to see this exactly when we start testing our configuration and in the next section when we start doing the demo. So with ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access, there is no trusted network perimeter. Your access policy should be the same whether your employee is logged into the office network or connected to an airport or coffee shop Wi-Fi networks. So ZTNA from OpenVPN Cloud creates a per app firewall and only allow authorized access to apps based on user identity based access policies. You'll see that again in a minute when we start configuring. So basically conceal and protect your network by easily configuring applications using domain names and providing identity based application access instead. So in summary, services kept private to reduce attack surface, no private network routes are leaked, no incoming tunnel connections to the network, only authorized services available as routes, hosts can be used to access private apps and not the network, multiple WPC are available to you and allow you to segment your network based on use cases, departments, privilege access, and so on. Per app firewalls only allow authorized protocols. Again, we're going to see that in a minute. Also, when it comes to identity, built-in two-factor authentication is available. You can turn that on easily in the admin portal. Single sign-on using SAML or LDAP. You can use your own identity provider such as Azure Active Directory or Windows Active Directory or any other identity provider. Again, simple configuration through the admin portal. Access control for networks, host, and user groups are available as well, and you can enable those. So, how can we achieve or create a ZTNA with OpenVPN Cloud? First, you need to sign for an account and create your wide area private cloud or WPC. Choose your cloud ID. I'm going to show you this in a minute. Once you create the first one, you can create other WPCs as well. Then you're going to define your trusted applications and IP services. That's going to be your second step. The third step is going to be defining trusted users and devices. Fourth step is going to be defining access policies. And then the last one is going to be shield or enabling shield against cyber threats. That's going to be the shield actually consists of traffic filtering and domain filtering, which we're going to look at that in a minute. Now, in order for me to show you this, we have created this environment. We have an AWS VPC with 2 servers, time card and accounting servers, and we have remote users accessing these servers from different places. In a second, we're going to log into the admin portal, and we're going to try to limit access to only needed protocols for these applications. We'll look at how to use access rules based on user groups, and then these user groups can be assigned in OpenVPN Cloud portal, or we can use LDAP or SAML and we can map the groups. We're going to use the local directory for purpose of this webinar. We're only accessing applications by names and no IP address will be used, so there won't be any network segment defined or used or configured. So you'll see that there is no routes are exposed. What we're going to do, we're going to create rules that marketing team can have access to time card app and accounting team can have access to accounting app, and nobody else can have access to these apps. Now, one last thing that we're going to do during our demo is basically these days a lot of companies have moved to remote or hybrid work environments and use of SaaS applications such as Salesforce is becoming very popular. Remote employees and users are accessing corporate and confidential data from everywhere using coffee shops, airports, and other unsecure public networks. So one solution to improve your security is that the use of IP restriction for logging, but there's no specific IP address range because again your users are connecting from different places, different ISPs and different networks. So what we're going to do in the next section, we're going to configure that our sales team can have access to Salesforce only if they're connected to WPC. So this way Salesforce traffic being encrypted within our tunnel, and we also would like to have identity-based access policies so only the sales team have access to salesforce.com. So a good way of doing this is to whitelist the IP address range, which most SaaS applications will give you this option. And by doing this, only those people that they are connected through OpenVPN Cloud or WPC can log in and authenticate. So this is a good protection against bad actors and compromised credentials. Now, I will also add what is my ipaddress.com to route a domain during the demo section, and that's because I want to show you that our connection for salesforce.com and what is my ipaddress.com is going through the WPC. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the portal. Now, first thing first, let me bring up my browser. The very first thing you have to do, you have to create your account. So if you go to your OpenVPN.net or our website, you're going to see there's a button in the middle that says create account. There is a button up here that says get started. There is a link up here that says login. No matter which one of these buttons or links you click, you're going to have an option to create an account. So you click on create an account and you will be presented by this page. It's going to ask you for email and a password. So you're going to type your email address and you're going to choose a good password. Now, once you signed up and everything is ready to go, you can also enable two-factor authentication for the owner of the account. Once you click on sign up here, you will get an email with 6-digit code. You grab that code, you come back to your browser, type the code in there, and verify your identity. And then you'll be presented with a page that is asking you to create a cloud ID for yourself. So once you create that cloud ID, that becomes your WPC identifier, and then what that is also is going to be the address that you can access um, your admin portal, and you can download your client profiles. Now, one more thing I'm going to show you here. It's going to be really hard for me to showcase all the features of the product in 45 minutes webinar. We have this option here on our website. You can request a demo. Now, you just enter some information here. We're going to get in touch with you, and we set up a time that is convenient for you with one of our sales engineers, and then they can do a demo specific to your needs, to your use cases, to your environment and criterias. So again, I'm going to just do a generic type of demo here during this webinar, but you may have certain requirements or use cases that you like to see how this product can interact. Again, please use the request for demo. Our sales engineers love to do demo all day long, so they can show you and answer any specific questions that you may have during that session. So once you're signed up and you have access to admin portal, you're going to get to this page. Now, first thing first, if you can look at up here on the upper right corner, this is my cloud ID or my WPC. So this is basically the address, this cloudid.openvpn.com. This is the address that I use to access my admin portal. Now, if I want to create another WPC, I can just click on this drop down, and as you can see, I already have another one, but if I now need to create, I can click on add cloud ID. This is going to get me to subscription page. Here you can choose the number of subscriptions that you need, and then you can choose if you would like to be billed annually or monthly, and then click on proceed to payment. The next screen, you can type your payment information and then click on pay, and then you get redirected to another page that you can choose your cloud ID. So we have the option of 3 free connections also, so you can try the product before purchasing any subscriptions. Again, once you choose the 3, you can click on create. Now, no matter if you choose the free subscription or you go make payments for more than 3 subscriptions, you will present it with this page. This is where it's going to ask you to enter a new cloud ID. And once you enter that and add it, then you're going to get redirected to admin portal. Now, once you're on admin portal, if you need to switch back between your cloud IDs, you just click on this drop down and choose the appropriate WPC. And you can switch back and forth between all of them. Now, it's a good idea to have multiple WPCs or other WPC, because if in case you want to segment applications from different departments or applications that need privileged access or specific use cases like IoTs or site-to-site or restricted internet. So there might be a lot of different reasons that you may need a different WPC, basically to segment your network. Now, once you log into admin portal, this is the page that you're going to see, the status page. This is where you can see how many active networks you have, how many active users, and a lot of other useful informations. You can also export this information as a CSV over an email. It's going to get emailed to you. Now, when you log in for the first time to your admin portal, probably the first thing you want to do is create networks. So you can click on create networks. Now, as you can see, I already have some networks here, but it doesn't matter. You can click on create network to create a new network. Now, with the OpenVPN Cloud Administration Portal, we really try to take the complexity out of the network configuration. So we created this step-by-step wizard, which has instructions as well. So as you can see, there is a read more here, and then there are steps that you can choose your network scenarios. So it makes it a lot easier to do configuration. You can skip wizard also, but why? I mean, again, step-by-step configuration with explanation, it's a lot easier. So when you try to create a network, the very first step is choosing a network scenario. Now, based on your environment, your requirement, you can choose one or you can choose multiple. However you want to do it, you choose it and then click on continue. Now, the next step is going to ask you for a name for your network. You can give it a name, you type whatever you want, and then the following part is going to be your connector. This is where you're defining your connector. So here for the connector, I'm going to leave the name as a default right now. When it comes to region, this is where is the closest to where your applications are hosted. For example, closest region to my AWS region is Los Angeles. So I leave it as Los Angeles here. And then I click on next. Now, this is the part that we're going to define routes to our private resources. Now, you can do it by private subnets or private domains. Here, I'm going to just do a private domain, nothing very special. So I'm just going to type my domain here and click on next. The third step, this is where I was going to try to get and to show you, is deploying the connectors. Now, if I click on this drop down, you can see we have connectors for pretty much all popular public cloud providers, all operating systems, virtual private server providers, and some compatible routers. No matter what option you choose, you may get presented with a package that you can download and instruction how to deploy the connector. So for example, here, if I choose Teltonica, as you can see, I have an option to download the profile and then a link. If I click on this link, it's going to get me to a page that it gives me a step-by-step instruction how to deploy the connector on Teltonica. Now going back here, if I choose Windows, for example, if I'm trying to deploy connector on Microsoft Windows, then I have the option of downloading the Connect app, which I can install it on the Windows server, and then I have instructions on how to run OpenVPN Connect app as a service and how to enable routing and NAT on Windows Server. Now when it comes to cloud, it's a little bit different because, for example, on AWS, as you can see, I can choose region and then launch the connector automatically on AWS. But if I don't want to do it automatically, I can download the package or the template here and launch it manually by using the CloudFormation template. When it comes to Azure, it's pretty much the same story. I can launch it on Azure automatically, or I can download the template and launch it manually, and that goes for the Google Cloud as well. So no matter what package you choose, you're going to have instructions and some probably a package or an install file as well. Once you're done with this part, you click on next. It's going to try to connect to your connector, and if your connector is online, you're going to get a green light and you can move to the next step, which is creating services and then configuring access groups. So let's go back to the networks that we already have connected and they're online. So as you can see, the network is here. It is connected. You can see the green light and the name of the network is shown here. Now the next part, it shows the internet access where it says split tunnel on. So let's take a minute and talk about the internet access and what that split on or split off, split tunnel on or split tunnel off means. So OpenVPN Cloud doesn't just tunnel traffic to private resources on your connected networks, it also gives you control over internet bound traffic by user groups, networks, or hosts. Now, right now we're looking at the network, but the same concept goes for the user groups and hosts as well. So, whether your business or organization needs to enforce a strict control by completely blocking internet access and limiting access to private and trusted internet destinations, or tunnel all internet traffic from a connected network, application server, or remote user to one or more connected private networks. There are three levels of security for internet routing, as you can see on the screen right now. Level 1 security is when we have a split tunnel on. Level 2 security is when we have a split tunnel off. And level 3 security is restricted internet. So with the split tunnel on, which is the default value for internet access setting, again associated with the user groups, networks, or hosts, and right now we're looking at network, but again the same thing or same concept for user groups and hosts. So with the split tunnel on, only traffic that is destined for the subnets on your internal network will go through the WPC. With level 1 security and a split tunnel on, you can expand security features such as working in tandem with other security providers. Just an example, you can send all private applications and some other low-risk internet apps through your OpenVPN Cloud, and all other high-risk internet traffic through a third-party cybersecurity provider like Zscaler. Now, with this level 1 security or split tunnel on, also all traffic to applications not configured for WPC will go through the internet, but CyberShield still protect from malicious sites and undesirable contents. Now, once internet access is set to split tunnel off for a certain user groups, networks, and hosts, internet traffic from those sources will go through WPC and exit through one or more networks set as internet gateway. Now, I'm going to talk about internet gateway in about 15 seconds, so just keep that in mind. Again, split tunnel off ensures that all internet traffic to be routed through some sort of UTMs or threat management, which can enforce corporate security policies. Also, all traffic can now be protected by CyberShield IDS and IPS in addition to use of UTM at internet gateway. Now, the last level of security, or level 3, when it comes to internet access, is restricted internet access, which is a built-in OpenVPN Cloud feature. Again, it allows you to block all internet access for selected user groups, devices, and networks, except to the trusted configured internet destinations. Restricted internet access enables organizations to control employees or controls employees' access to both internal and external applications. So we're going to leave it as a default here as split tunnel on. Now, let's talk about internet gateway here. Often, an organization or business needs to have their users' internet traffic routed to their data centers to maximize security on Wi-Fi hotspots, corporate policy enforcement, and or obtaining trusted source IP address that can be used for access control policies and accessing certain SaaS platforms. All these can be accomplished by utilizing and enabling the internet gateway. Think of the internet gateway as a task that you can assign to any of your private networks that has internet access, so that it can act as a gateway between your WPC and the internet. So below here, below that, we can see the routes. This is where we can configure the routes. Now, if you look at under domains, I already have 2, accounting and IoT. I need to add a couple more. If you remember, we're going to have a route to the time card for the marketing, and we're going to have a route to salesforce.com for sales team, and I'm going to add also what's my IP address.com to just be able to test the connection. So the very first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a route for timecard server. Now I'm going to click on the domain here, and then I'm going to type the address and confirm it. Once it's confirmed, I click on add service. Here I'm just going to give it a name. So I'm going to name it timecard. It's easier to remember. And this is where we're going to choose the protocol. This is our per app firewall. So we're going to close basically all other ports except the ones that we need. So we're going to use the HTTP and HTTPS here and ICMP. So click on create. That was for my time card. Now I need to create one for salesforce.com. So I click on plus sign again and then salesforce.com, confirm it. I'm going to click on add service. Let's name it Salesforce, and then again per app firewall we're going to choose the HTTP and HTTPS for the protocol and click on create. And the last one, it's going to be what is my IP address.com, confirm it, and then click on add service again. Just name it what is my IP address, and then for the protocol I'm going to choose the HTTP and HTTPS. So create it. We're done with the domains here, and then the next section is a connector. As you can see, my connector is online. This is the name of the connector, and this is the region, and the tunnel IP address is shown here. So the next step is going to be creating our DNS record. Now I'm going to click on settings and go to DNS. Now here you can use your own private DNS servers if you would like to do that, but as I said, for the purpose of this webinar we're going to use the local directory. So I'm going to add a DNS record here. We already have one for accounting. I need to add one for time card. So let's go to our AWS portal, and I'm going to select my time card. So the IP address is .168. So let's go back to admin portal, click on plus sign next to the DNS record, and we're gonna put the address here is a timecard.ovnlab.local, and then the IP address, which is .68, and confirm it. We're done with the DNS record. It's added and it's ready to go. Now before we go to users and users group, I want to show you the user authentication here since we're on this section. By clicking on user authentication under settings, as you can see, two-factor authentication is here. You can enable this here, and all your users will have to use two-factor authentication when they sign in or connect to WPC. Also, as you can see, the SAML and LDAP configuration happen on this page as well if you would like to use your own identity provider. So basically just click on edit here, and then you go ahead and choose either SAML or LDAP, and then create the configuration here. But again, for the purpose of this webinar, we're using a local directory. So let's look at the users and the groups. Now, as you can see, we already have some users here, and then I already have some groups here. Now let's look at here. If I want to create a group, it's pretty simple. I just click on create group here. I can give it a name here. For example, I can type today. Let's call it tech support, and I'll leave everything else as default here, and I'm going to click on confirm. Oh, before I do that, connect auth. Let me explain very quickly about connect auth here. So there are three types of policies that relates to authenticating the WPC connections attempt. While all WPC connection attempts are authenticated based on the digital certificate that is part of the profile, the connect auth configuration determines when and whether the user is prompted for account credentials. Either we're going to allow them to just type it once and then they don't type it anymore, or every single time they try to log in, or give them a period of time that they don't have to authenticate. So You can choose whatever option is appropriate for in your environment and then click on confirm. So this is how we're going to create a group. Now, if we want to assign the user and create the users for this group, we can click on the group, like for example, tech support here, and then I have an option of creating users here. So for the user, let's go ahead and click on this little plus sign, and then we can type a username here if we want to do first name, last name, email, and then group is already selected. And then for the roles, you can choose members or admin and click on confirm. So Matt now is part of the tech support team. If I go back to users, if I want to create user from here, I can also do it from here as well. So if I click on create user, I can type username here, for example, Tara, and then first name, last name if I need to do that. And then from here, I can choose what group this user will belong to, and then click on confirm. So as you can see, Matt, part of tech support, is created, and then I got Tara, also part of tech support account, is created. Once we're done with the users and user groups, the next step is creating access policies or access groups. So let's go to access and then groups. As you can see, I already have an accounting access group here. So if I click on this button, I can see that it's accounting, have access to the accounting server. Now we need to create a couple of more groups here. So click on create access group. The first one is going to be for the sales team. So I'm going to call it sales, and then come down here, choose sales team, and sales team is going to have access to Salesforce and what is my IP address.com. So I'm going to click on create. Now we need to create one more for marketing team. Click on create access group, and then we're going to call it marketing. And down here we're going to choose marketing, and marketing is going to have access to time card. So click on create. We are done with creating our access groups. Now sales have access to salesforce.com, or they have to go through WPC to access their salesforce.com and what is my IP address. And then marketing has access to the time card, and accounting has access to the accounting services. Same scenario that we talked about earlier. So the last thing that we're going to do here, we're going to enable our shield here. So let's go ahead, click on shield, and the very first time when you access, you're going to get presented with this page. This is where you can configure your domain filtering. We already have some preset protection level ready, so you can choose the appropriate one. Click on enable, and then you can get to traffic filtering. Again, some preset protection level already ready for you. You can choose the appropriate one and click on enable. Once you're done, from now on, every time you click on shield, you'll be presented by this page. You're going to have the top 10 dashboard here. You got your metrics here and other reports down here. Now if you want to turn off or turn on your traffic filtering, domain filtering, you can do it from these little toggle switches. If you want to reconfigure it, for example, for traffic filtering, you can click on the edit button. Now you can choose the priority level if you would like to do priority, or you can choose by category. Now when it comes to domain filtering, as you can see, we have 43 categories available. Again, there are some preset protection level, and there is a custom one that you can choose as many or as little as you would like. So for example, if I choose select all 43 categories are blocked, but if I unselect webmail, then everything else is blocked except webmail. So webmails are going to be accessible for our users that they're connected. Now if you're not sure about any categories, you can point your mouse to the question mark, and there is a little pop-up window that is going to explain about that category. For example, here on a webmail, websites that offer to send and receive emails. If I point my mouse to next to real estate here, websites related to real estate or house rentals. So once you're happy with that, you can click on save to save your configuration. Now as you can see, we do have an allow list and block list as well. So this is for when you want to allow specific domain names or websites, you can add it here. And when it comes to block list, same thing. If you want to block specific domain and um, website. Now, if you remember, when I did the block categories, I unchecked webmail. So I gave access to webmail to everybody who access to the WPC. But if you go to block list, I already have mail.google.com blocked because we don't want to have our users access Gmail while they're connected to our WPC. This is again for the purpose of this demo. So we're going to test this later on. I'm going to try to connect to some webmail like yahoo.com or something like this, and then we're going to try to access Gmail as well. So when you're happy with your selections and your configuration, you can click on close. So this is basically what we needed to do to create the scenarios that we talked about earlier. So give access to time cards for marketing team, to give access to accounting team, the accounting team give access to accounting app, and sales team, if they need to access salesforce.com, they have to go through our WPC. So let's test this. I'm going to open up this browser here, and I'm going to try to go to WPC to Salesforce right now with my credential without connecting to WPC. So Salesforce is coming up. I'm going to type my credentials here for a second. And I should not be able to log in. Again, we already restricted our IP address in salesforce.com, and I'm not connected with a sales team profile to WPC, so I'm not able to connect. So that's that. Now let's go back here, and I'm going to go to users. So if you look at here, Jordan is part of sales team. So let's go ahead and connect with Jordan's profile. I'm going to bring up the profile connect app here, and Jordan is here. Toggle the switch, and Jordan is connected. First thing first, if you remember, I mentioned earlier that no private IP addresses range is being shown, and users cannot find that. So if I go to my routes, if you look in the logs here, as you can see, there is no private IP address range here showing. We just see the two address ranges that it was assigned by WPC. Now, one of them has over 1 million IP addresses, and the other one has over 2 million IP addresses. So with this large range, makes it really hard to scan the WPC network. So this is how basically we cloak our private IP addresses. Now we are connected with Jordan's account. Let's go ahead and bring this browser up, and we're going to go ahead and try to go to Salesforce again. Now while I'm connected as Jordan, who is part of the sales team. So I'm going to go ahead and type my credentials here and click on login. Now as you can see, I'm connected to Salesforce. So this works. Now one thing here I'm going to show you again, if I look at what is my IP, obviously Google is not going through WPC because we didn't configure it that way. So this is the IP address for my network where I'm sitting right now. But if you remember, what is my IP address.com was configured to go through WPC. So if I bring up what is my IP address.com, the IP address is different. This is the IP address for my connector. So that shows that salesforce.com and what is my IP address.com, they are going through WPC. So that's how I was able to access Salesforce. Now, one more thing here I'm going to show you is that while I'm connected as a sales team, a member of sales team, I'm going to try to go to time card server, for example. And as you can see, the time card it shouldn't come up, and I'm not able to access it. I should get a message that says this page cannot be reached. And this is going to happen even if I do the accounting, for example. So for both of them, as you can see, for the time card, it came up, the site cannot be reached. And if I look at the accounting, it should come up in a second with the same message. And here we go. This site cannot be reached. So Both sites are unreachable while I'm logged in as a sales team member. Let's go ahead and disconnect from Jordan and let's look at Bruce. Bruce is part of the accounting. Per our configuration, the accounting members should have access to accounting app and not the time card or Salesforce or anything like that. So let's go ahead and connect with Bruce's profile. Connected again, let's look at the logs just to make sure. And if I go to the routes here, again, there is no private IP address range is shown in the routes. Now, couple of things here. Let's first thing first, let's go ahead and try to access salesforce.com. So I'm gonna go ahead, actually let me bring up a private browsing. I'm gonna type Salesforce here. I'm gonna enter my credentials and try to access Salesforce. Remember, here we go, we can't because Bruce is not part of the sales team, so we cannot access salesforce.com. Now, let me go back to my portal. Now, I'm going to bring up the command prompt. So, I should be able to ping the accounting again because Bruce is part of the accounting team. So, I'm going to ping the accounting server. And here we go, I get reply back. But look at the IP address. This is not the IP address assigned to my accounting server. This is an IP address from different subnet that it was assigned by WPC. So again, users will not be able to find your private IP address or private IP addresses of your resources. Now, obviously, Bruce has access to accounting, so when we ping, we got a reply back. Now, let's go ahead and bring a browser up here, and I'm going to go to accounting.ovnlab.local. And again, you can see the page is up. Bruce can type his username, password, and authentication code and access it. Now, what happened if I try to go to time card? Now, the time card obviously will not come up because Bruce is not part of the marketing team. And in a second, I should get this site cannot be reached. And here we go. This site cannot be reached. So we are connected with Bruce's account. And one last thing we're going to look at here is our shield. If you remember, we selected for domain filtering, we selected all 42 two categories except the domain, except the webmails. And one of the categories that we selected here are news and media. So if I try to access, for example, CNN.com, it should get blocked and I should get a message that says this site cannot be reached. So let's wait for that for a second. Here we go. So this site cannot be reached because again, domain filtering is in place. Now, what about if I try to go to Gmail? Because if you remember, we blocked Gmail. So if I click on Gmail here, I should not be able to access it either. Here we go. This site cannot be reached. But what about if I go to mail.yahoo.com? Here we go. That comes up. So going back to our slides, very last slide that we're going to talk about is differentiators. Obviously, the very first one that comes to mind is pricing based on concurrent connections, and you get 3 connections free prior to purchase. Same solution for multiple use cases, site to site, ZTNA, IoT, secure internet, and so on. Also, integrated security stack, you're going to have IDS and IPS, content filtering, firewall, MFA, all these already included into the product. Full mesh, high-speed core overlay network connectivity. Obviously, it reduces latency and provide route diversity. Multiple WPCs can be created for segmenting your networks, for departments, use cases, anything that you may need to have different segments when it comes to your network. And IoT friendly, obviously, there are many others here listed, and you can see. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. This is where I'm going to open the floor for any questions that you may have. Again, Please do not forget to take advantage of our demo, our private demos that we can provide you with the very specific type of demo based on your inquiries, your use cases, your requirements, and answer any specific questions you may have during that time. Go to our website, click on request demo, and just enter a couple of information so we can get in touch with you and schedule that demo with you. Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Santiago. I appreciate it. Again, we're going to be here for our next few minutes, so if you have any questions, please go ahead, type it in the chat box. Moses, the question was regarding the message on the website, I believe. Is that correct? Let me double check. Yeah, that, if you can change the message on your browser, you can, but I'm not sure. Again, the message doesn't come from the traffic or domain filtering. So I can answer that. Again, if you can change the message in your OS or browser, you can, but there's no configuration in the shield for that. Let me see. Thank you, everyone. So for the purchases and bulk plans, there are some options available. Jesse, I would suggest either I can have somebody to reach out to you and explain it to you, or you can contact us through our website, and we'll have somebody to answer that exactly what entails. I'm not sure what you mean by increasing the character length limits. If you can explain that for me or expand on that, I appreciate it. The webinar is recorded, and you all should get a link to this webinar within next 24 hours. As soon as we get it uploaded and ready to go, you should get that link. Again, keep in mind that this was just a generic type of overview. But if you have any specific use case and any specific requirements, please take advantage of that demo option on the website, and one of our sales engineers, they can do a very specific demo to your needs. So please use that. Moses, that's a good point. Obviously we can always take all these suggestions, and we try to work and try to something very fluent and easy to use, and practical for everybody. So this is a good point. I'm going to take that to our development team and product management team, and we'll see what we can do about that. But that's a great point. Thank you. The Connect app, Alan, it is compatible with mobile apps, Androids and iOS apps as well. Yes, there is you can see that on our website, or if when you create a user and you send the user to the portal, they have the option of downloading the Connect app into within their operating system, whatever it is. Again, iOS and Android, it's supported. Yuval, I don't think that you need to have an account. You can just click on the demo, type your information, contact information, and one of our customer service or customer success members are going to get in touch with you and set up the appointment. So you don't need to have any accounts. Any other questions? Did I miss anything here? Okay, great. I see that it got solved, Yuval. Thank you. Okay, we got a couple more minutes. Any other questions here? Okay, it seems like there is no other questions. Again, if anything comes up, please reach out. Again, there are multiple options from our websites that you can reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Have a happy holidays. Please be safe and healthy. And again, if there is any questions, please send us the request over the website, and we'll be more than happy to answer all those questions. Thank you again. Happy holidays. Have a great day.